again, live in Boca. And, you know, it's funny, we are live here in Boca, but also with all our friends around the world watching us, we're also live all over the world. Interesting. So we want to talk today, okay, as I did last week for the time. Usually we read from Karen's book, but when I was in LA last week, I happened to open this book, and I thought, you know what, let's give it another shot, because as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Noah and the Ark and a few things like that. It's very timely. My friends out there in Hong Kong, I don't know if you've heard, but they've had floods, really extreme floods. Like if you're riding on a bus, the water is so high that the floor of the bus is also flooded. There's water in it. So I thought that was very unique because of the power of Noah and the flood of Noah, which we'll talk about a little today. Okay, so I open up the book, and of course, for those of you unfamiliar, the word Noah, like Noah and the flood that we'll talk about, Noah means comfort. So I open up, and of course, if you've read the book, in the nice big pink writing, comfort is a warm blanket that keeps us wrapped in the desire to receive for oneself alone, oblivious to the urgent need to change. I'm comfortable. This prison really isn't that bad. Perhaps the goal of life is for us all to have a productive stay in prison. And if you remember, he's talking about the prison of the 1% world, the physical world. And in that way, we're all trapped by it in some level. One day, again, he's talking about people within the prison. One day, I may even grow up to be president of the cell block. It could happen. It's a free prison. Or, I'm comfortable. You know, maybe I'm not even in prison. Maybe I've been hallucinating all this time. Maybe I'm in the South Seas, and these concrete walls are really sand, and the bare bulb is really a warm, glowing sun. Comfort kills, even though seeking it is a biologically determined survival strategy. Organisms instinctively flee discomfort. That's why they survive. But what's comfortable for the body is misery for the soul. Should I repeat that? What's comfortable for the body is misery for the soul. As souls, we're trapped in the 24-hour survival drama of the bodies we inhabit. The comfort we truly long for, the ultimate and only comfort, is union with the Creator. On the one hand, we have the illusionary comfort of the body, and then on the other hand, the true comfort of the soul. We cannot be comfortable in both universes at the same time, any more than we can go east while we're going west. We're either going towards God or we're moving towards ego, death, and suffering. And the road to real comfort, which is God, passes through a great deal of discomfort. It passes through discomfort because it mandates destruction of the need to feel special, the hunger for approval, the longing to belong, the addiction to the fluff of flattery, and all mental junk food, empty of real nutrition, that we stuff into our brains to feed the illusion of an ego self. The journey to God is an ejection seat from the comfort zone. They're staying here. They haven't got up to leave. Okay. So, what are we going to do today? And again, welcome for those of you who are watching or from around the world. And let's see. I know some. Oh, there we go. Yes. Yes, for real. Boca, Atlanta, Gulf breeze. Nice. Okay. So let's start this morning. If you look around the world, how much chaos do you see? A lot of chaos, yes? Now, if we see a lot of chaos like we just read, what's the natural tendency? What do we want to do when we see chaos or discomfort? Naturally, inherently, we want to run away. We want to avoid. But as we just read, what is he telling us? If we try and just run away from it, you and I have learned what follows us. Wherever you go, who's there? You are. Right? So since we constantly speak about consciousness is everything, and we're here on a mission to be like God, which is what this book is giving us in more simple terms, to understand. If we're in a mission to be like God, then seeking the comfort in the 1% world, the protection from the 1% world, meaning the physicality, the physical material world, the only way we can be protected from chaos in the physical world, as he says, is only one way. And if we've been learning in the center, at least Kabbalah 1, we know there's only one source of protection. We're all looking for it, and that's why he was saying we inherently want that comfort. Because when we go back to the endless world, and we remember where we came from, how comfortable were we in the endless world? Endless, except for one small detail. It was infinite light. There was nothing else. No chaos, no fighting, no discord, no disharmony, etc. It was just infinite light in us. Or can't even say us, the one soul. So we experienced infinite comfort. There was only one thing that we could say relative to our understanding made us uncomfortable. That we were not acting like God. We have the power of God, but we weren't acting like God. So here we come into this world, and that's our only mission. Act like God. Why? Because the light force of the Creator is the only source of lasting fulfillment. Only source. So when we talk about the Bible, and this is what we want to get into a little bit this morning, the Bible is true, we believe, on a physical level. We believe, like in this case, there was Noah and there was the flood. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and those people did exist. But the most important thing for us is to understand the lessons they're teaching us, not just the physical person. How many of you have ever had a difficult situation in your life that you worked yourself through it? Anybody? Yeah. Right? So if it was a difficult situation and you felt hurt, angry, fearful, scared, jealous, judgmental, whatever you want to say, and you worked through it, in the end of your working through it, how did you come out of it? Better or worse? Better. But the person or the people involved were worse. They were the bad people. They were the ones did the things that we didn't like, yes? So they were still stuck in their spiritual mud, as we call it, but we were now out of it. And not only out of it, but a little more clean from our own spiritual mud. So if we just hold those experiences we've already had, why would we think then that what's going on in the world now, our comfort or our goodness is dependent on them? We've had many, many experiences that that's not true. That our good has been dependent on our behavior. At the same time, unfortunately, can't have one side of cause and effect without the other. If our goodness is based on our good behavior, then what do we have to acknowledge about the challenges in our life? This is the tough part, but it's also the most powerful. We have to admit they're somehow based on our previous life or previous behavior. If everything is cause and effect, then we are in complete control of our life. So what we want to learn from the Bible is not those physical people, but we want to understand what they were teaching us, the good stories and the bad stories. Because even as we say very often in our life, why should we study history? To not make the same mistakes. The trouble is what happens with this 1%. We find ourselves caught in the 5 sense physicality. So when we look at the Bible, we say, oh, that was, in this case, this was Noah, 4,000 and some odd years ago. What does it have to do with us today? But the lesson is the lesson. Our job is not to fall to the physical 5 senses. Say, well, that was way back then, and that was them, and that's not us. We have to realize the laws of the universe are the laws of the universe. Nobody transcends them. Nobody has an exemption from them. Starting with the most fundamental, cause and effect. It's infinite. It goes to every detail. I move my hand like this. I'm affecting something in the cosmos. I may not see it, but I know I'm affecting something. So what do we want to learn from this story? The story of Noah. So let's just start with that. We all know, and usually we think about the flood. And how many people do you know, because it can't be us anymore, we're learning in the Kabbalah Center. Why would God bring the flood on all these people? Why would God judge the people in such a way that he had to destroy the world except for Noah? But you and I, as we're saying now, we've come to understand that the Bible is true, but it also has spiritual lessons for us. And we're learning how to see through the physicality of it to understand the cause and effect. So even in the literal Bible, even if you go back and you look, it says, even in the English, before the flood, the world, and we know the Bible doesn't waste terms, and it doesn't exaggerate. So it says, the world was filled with hatred and violence. The world. Didn't say, Noah and his family and friends and his, close environment. The world was filled with hatred and violence. So imagine all that negative energy going out into the cosmos. What would you want to do with all that negativity? Wipe it out. So I like very simple ideas. You ever eaten on non-disposable plates? In your own house? Yes? So you eat. After you finished eating, what does the plate look like? Does it look like it's nice, original, clean plate? Yes, for some of us. You're licking everything off the plate like a dog, right? So for most of the rest of us, there's a little dirt on those plates. Do you just put that back in your cabinet and wait for the next time you're hungry to just pull it out now? What do you do with that plate? You wash it. How do you wash it? With water, soap and water, to clean the dirt off that plate so it goes back to its original perfection. So if we understand the story of the flood, what is it telling us? If the world was filled with hatred and violence, then how do you clean that? You wash it away. So there was a flood. It wasn't God woke up one day and said, I don't like what I see, let's just wipe it all out. If that were the case, why did God, according to the Bible, tell Noah, warn the people and build the ark? Because at least we understand God wanted to protect us all. But, again, free will. If you read the stories, the prophets, right, just to go there for a second, every time you read a story of one of the prophets, basically what are they saying? What are they trying to tell people? Be more godlike. Be more godlike, right? Because there's chaos on its way. The destruction of the temple is coming. Be more godlike. Free the slaves. Give charity. Help people. Forgive your neighbor. Or else there'll be destruction. Not very pleasant, is it? So we see, as the Zohar says, it's teaching us for at least 2,000 years in its written form. And through these stories, we see it even more. The solution always comes before the problem. Let's think simple for you and me. You ever had an experience where, as you're about to go somewhere, do something or whatever, you hear a little voice that tells you, take your umbrella, go check the stove, maybe you left it on, things like that. You ever heard that voice? Have you ever not listened to that voice? How many times that you don't listen do you regret not listening? Many of them, yes? Probably all of them in some way or another. When you listen to the voice, even though it seemed to you like, I'm sure I shut off the stove. But the little voice nags at you. So you go check the stove and you realize, you didn't see this one particular knob was on and the stove was going. So what is that? It's the same idea. There's always the solution before the problem. Always the solution before the problem. The issue is, are we listening? So what does it say according to the Zohar? And you don't read it in the Bible, because we know the Bible is the very simple, let's call it surface level story. Like if I tell you, okay, I've been here in Boca 12 years. That's the surface, yes? Right? Does it tell you where I lived in those 12 years? Does it tell you where I've been in those 12 years? No, it doesn't tell you that, but it's true. I've been in Boca 12 years. So the same thing. So the Bible says, yes, Noah was told by God, build the ark. But do you know, for 300 years, Noah warned people that the flood was coming. For 120 years, he was building the ark. Now, I know you and I are all going because 2020 hindsight. So we would look and say, wow, why didn't people listen to Noah? What? Because we already know the flood is coming, right? But imagine now, imagine you and I are here, we're sitting here, wherever you are in the world, wherever we are here in Boca, and you hear a voice tells you, or someone's telling you, the flood is coming, the flood is coming, the flood is coming. And like we read from Michael Berg, we look around and say, oh, my life's pretty comfortable. I live in a nice place. I have a nice living. I do nice things. I have nice friends. Everything great and wonderful. But they're telling me the flood is coming. The flood is coming. So after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, in our level, because we can't relate to 300 years, right? How do we understand they lived 800 years? So if you take in that way, okay, so 300 out of 800 is a third. So even for you and I, for a couple years, somebody says, yeah, in 5 years the flood is coming. And we watching a year goes by. No flood, everything looks okay. My life is okay. 2 years, 3 years. When are we going to give up? When are we going to start laughing at that person? Ha ha ha, are you kidding, Noah? The flood is coming? It's dry, look. 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. When do you think they woke up?
301 years.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as the rain started. The Kabbalists teach us, as soon as the rain started, unfortunately, but they tried to cling on to the ark. So we want to take that lesson. We want to understand it. Hindsight is 2020. But we have to start looking even in retrospect, not only to these biblical stories or what you hear around the world, but what about our own life? Like we've said, often we've had that voice tells us what to do. Sometimes we listen and we see the blessing of it, and sometimes we don't listen and we regret it. Thank God for most of us, it's relatively minor things. Okay, left the stove on, maybe. Thank God nothing burned down. Right? Left the lights on, didn't take the umbrella, so I got a little wet. Things like that. But sometimes it can be disastrous. This is what we want to take now. We want to take. So what do we want to learn from this? What do we want to get? We want to know what's going on today. Let's look at the world today. So we have to start and think. Go back to some of the basics we've learned. How many voices are in our head?
Hopefully one.
Yeah, hopefully one, right? Oh, and by the way, in person, so I'm sorry for you that are out there in cyberspace, but Wednesday I'm starting an in-person Kabbalah 1 here. So it'd be great to have you all 7 o'clock, right? You can register online, you can call during the week, etc. How to register, it's pay as you can, whatever you can afford to pay, but come and join us. So we learned from Kabbalah 1, there are 2 voices in our head. Only 2. What are the voices? We have the voice of the light, the voice of our soul, which is a piece of light, right? It's filled with the light of the Creator. And what is that voice telling us? How to be kind, how to be nice. Like we said, take your umbrella, check the mail, go do this, whatever it is. That's the voice of the light inside of us, wants us to have all the blessings. Watch out. How many times you drive down the street and you say, you know what, whatever, slow down, something already comes to your mind, etc. And because you slowed down, whoosh, car went through the red light right in front of you or through the stop sign. Ever happen to you? Things like that? Okay, so that's the voice of the light. If we only had the voice of our light in our heads, what would we have lost if that was the only voice?
One time I think you explained that there are still voices,
Yes.
the body and the soul, and we should always listen to
Right.
the voice of the soul because that's the one that is really telling us what it is. The voice in our head can tell us something different.
Exactly. So what would we lose by having only one voice in our head?
Reality.
So let's go to the other voice. What is the other voice? Because each voice will we will hear in our head thousands of messages, but they only come from two sources. So we have the one source, the voice of the light. We have on the other side, which we established. Let's not look at God and blame God for it. We established in our own head this parasite called the opponent. The one that says, desire to deceive oneself alone. The one that wants to push us into the 1%. The one that wants us to see only the small picture, not the big picture. The small picture. And what's that voice? That's the voice of the ego, the selfishness, the limitations, the lack, the smallness. It doesn't want us to remember and act like God. And remember, we have that power. So now that we have the voice of the light and the voice of the opponent, now what do we have? That's true. We have confusion and we have choice. We have free will. If we only had the voice of the light in our head, we'd have no free will. Why would we need to leave the endless world? We'd just be like robots. So at first it might be nice, right? Now that we're here and we're experiencing what we're experiencing in life, it might be nice if I didn't have the voice of the opponent in my head. But how many of you, if I asked you, would you like someone or a group of people to take away your free will and just tell you what you need to do every second of every day? Would you like that?
No.
Why not?
Because when you...
No, why not? Simple.
Oh.
I want my free will. I want to choose for myself. I want choice. So we don't want somebody to tell us all the time what to do. We want the choice. Do I want to do what they say or not do what they're telling us? Do I want to listen to the voice of the light or I want to listen to the voice of the opponent? That's our choice. That's what free will is about. We don't have free will to act. Consciousness is everything. We have free will to choose which voice we're going to listen to. Then, as we listen to that voice and it's telling us what to do, then we follow that action. So the action isn't really our free will. Listening to which voice is our free will. The voice we choose to listen to automatically becomes the action we do. So our choice is listening to the voice. The one voice, the voice of the light, as I read, for those of you who may have just joined us, the voice of the light is a very uncomfortable voice. Because it wants us to be free, as Michael Berg calls it, from the prison that we are in. Anyone here, anyone watching us, has no chaos, confusion, worry, anxiety, stress about what's going on in the world today or going on in one's own life? Anybody? Completely stress-free, happy, joyous, peaceful, just floats along, etc.? No, right? We all have something. We all have something. So then our work is stop listening to the voice of the opponent, because what does it tell us? See the small picture. What do I need today? Forget what's going to happen tomorrow. Why do you think a thief steals? Just conceptually. Seeing the big picture? Is the thief seeing cause and effect when they steal? No. What do they see? The small picture. They want money now. Take the money, run away. They walked away with the money. They don't see, in whatever frame you want to look at, the police will catch them, somebody will get them, or just cosmically. The spiritual law is for every dollar they steal, they have to. No other choice, they are going to lose $1.20 unless they pay it back before it's taken from them. But that's the law. But why do they steal? Why do any of us get angry?
Because it doesn't come our way, whatever.
Exactly, because I'm seeing the picture now. They said something made me uncomfortable. I have to take back my comfort. So if I get angry at them, now I have instant gratification. Do I see what happens 5 minutes later? No. My favorite example. How many of you ever been on a diet? Right? How many of you ever cheated on that diet? How many of you remember the moment you cheated? Oh, it was so good. And then 30 seconds after it's finished, oh, God, that's a foolish thing. So we promise ourselves, I'll never do that again. Till a week later, and that nice dessert comes by, or your friends invite you out, or like me, I was just in LA. I have to tell you, I ate like I haven't eaten in such a long time. Why? Because part of my brain said, well, it's LA, right? What happens in LA stays in LA. Yeah, exactly. I ate the food in LA, but unfortunately, everything that I got from it followed me all the way back to Boca. But again, do we learn from history? No, because we find ourselves repeating those same things over and over again. Why? Why? Because we forget in the moment, with the help of the opponent, we forget we have the opponent in our head. And part of the opponent is forgetfulness. We read the Bible, we say, oh yeah, I'm not going to do like those people at the time of Noah. And then somebody cuts us off on the street, we don't get our way, somebody says something I don't like, etc., etc., and then we act with what? May not be hatred and violence, but in our level, we'll act with a little resentment, a little, impatience, a little judgment, a little anger. Same thing. Same thing. Why? Because we forgot. We forgot what we're here for. So we have those two voices. Our job is to focus on the voice of the light, the intuition that says, no, you're not going to get instant gratification. In fact, the light's only going to tell us how to share uncomfortably. You know what? Forgive that person. Have compassion on that person. Be a little kinder. Be a little humble. Be a little more patient. Why does the Bible tell us God is long-suffering and kind and compassionate and has mercy, etc.? The Bible says it in very simple terms. It's called the 13 attributes of God. What's the lesson for us? Oh, really? Is God that way? Read the Bible literally. It doesn't look that way. One day God is punishing people. One day God is rewarding people. One day God is happy. One day God is jealous. That's what we read. But we understand, if you're learning here in the center, God is not that way. God is just light, constantly shining. So when it's telling us the attributes of the Creator, what is it really telling us for us? This is what we have. We have the ability to be long-suffering, kind, compassionate, merciful, etc. The issue is how much we do that. So starting today, we want to be more and more of that. Why? Not because we're holy people, not because we're altruistic, not because we want to be spiritual. Just want to be practical. How many of you have ever had somebody do something on the street, like I said, cut you off or stop at the yellow light, things that you get a little upset? Ever happened to you? I hope I get the right answer here. How many of you ever stopped, pulled the other guy over, got out, beat on their car, beat on the person, like they call road rage? Any of us? No, we may imagine in our mind, but we would never do it. We would never do it. But we have that anger, right? We have that aspect. We want to go get them, but no, we have at least a little sense, practical. Maybe they're bigger than me. Maybe they could beat me up. So you may want to get out of the car and scream and yell, but you're worried. Maybe, heaven forbid, they have a gun. They have a knife, something. So is it because suddenly you're so spiritual? No, practical. I don't know who they are. I don't want to take the chance. So the same way, why should we share uncomfortably? It's practical. Why should we be willing to pause and not get involved in the other person's mud? Practical. Protects me. Keeps me out of the chaos. So it's okay. Is that selfish? I know I already hear the opponent, but that's selfish. If you're only looking out for yourself and protection for yourself, it's selfish. Except for one thing, cause and effect. So if I want all that protection, I want all that good, how do I have to act towards you? Kind and compassionate and forgiving and tolerant and all those good things. What goes around comes around. That's why the Kabbalists have taught us that we should want. Why is this whole system called Kabbalah, which means to receive, if it's only about sharing? Because we're learning how to strengthen our desire for fulfillment from the light. Strengthen our desire for the light and not for anything in the physical material. Because the light is our source of lasting fulfillment. So we have to keep strengthening it. Why? Because we know cause and effect. The light is win-win. If I want all the light for me, means I have to reveal the light out of my soul towards you. So everybody wins. If a person is selfish in the selfish way, then it looks like win-lose, right? I win to your loss. Heaven forbid. Of course, we know in the end, cause and effect. There's no such thing. This thief stole, walks away with $100. But 2 weeks later, when the $120 disappears, do you think they see cause and effect? No. They think this other person stole their $120. So they don't see the cause and effect. Therefore, they're trapped in a treadmill, that little hamster's wheel, because then they'll go steal another $100. Then they lose $120. Then they steal another $100 because they don't see cause and effect. And they keep listening to the voice of the opponent. Small picture. Keep stealing the money because you walk away with the money, and then try and avoid that person who took the 120. Try and avoid that kind of investment that you lost the 120. Try and avoid that situation. They forgot one thing. It's their own consciousness creating the effect, not the other people. The other people just messengers. Noah was a messenger. He wasn't the one who decided who got in the ark and who wasn't. He was a messenger. Oh, the chaos is on its way. They all had free will. They all had free will. So this is what we're learning now. What makes it so difficult? Kind of inferred it a little bit along the way here. Why is it so difficult to behave like the light? I mean, we often speak about it's not physically, it's not a difficult thing. Right? If I asked you, think of, or let's make it real simple. Close your eyes and think of somebody that you love a lot. Yes, also you out there. Close your eyes. Now say, I love you. Let me hear it.
I love you.
Is it that difficult to say I love you to your loved ones? Let me hear. Close your eyes, your loved ones. I love you. Great. Difficult? No. Now close your eyes and think of a nasty person in your life. Somebody you can't stand. Somebody you've been judging and said it. Now, physically, is it easy to say those words? Yes. What makes it difficult? Because you don't know what they did to me. You don't know how they behaved. You don't know what horrible things they've done. It's not physically difficult. It's, again, consciousness difficult. Why? Because in the small picture, I perceive they're holding me back in some way or another. They're creating a disadvantage for me. But when we can stand back and see the big picture, we understand, no, nobody can stop me, like you've already seen in your own life. Somebody misbehaved, you overcame, you persevered, you broke through, you changed, and you came out shining with blessings while they're still in their mud. So we know it can be that way. So this is what the Kabbalists are teaching us. But what makes it difficult? First thing is time. The illusion of time. What's time mean? We don't see the cause and effect. Right? Like Noah, at the time of Noah. So after the first 150 years, he was warning people. Why didn't they wake up and say, you know what? I can feel the flood is coming, and change. Because after 150 years, they still didn't see it. They got caught in the illusion. Like we said, the thief steals $100, and 3 months later, when the 120 goes away, do they see the cause and effect? No, because this illusion of time makes them not see it. Time is division. Time is separateness. If we could see, if the thief saw, as they're about to put their hand in the jewelry case and steal the jewelry, if they could see their hand falling off, the moment they touch the jewelry, do you think they'd steal? The moment they wanted to reach into the other person's pocket and steal the money, or embezzle the money, or whatever it is, or say the nasty thing, and they could see their hands falling off, do you think they'd do it? No. So then why do they do it? Because they don't see it happen. Maybe in 3 weeks, maybe in 6 years or something, then they lose a hand. But they don't understand the cause and effect. You and I are learning cause and effect. The other part, how many of you ever taken a hammer, put your hand on the table, and smashed your own hand with a hammer? Nobody's raising their hand, but I see some smiles, so something going on in their head. But you understand that we wouldn't do that. So what's the other part that makes this all so difficult? The illusion of separateness. You and me are not one body. You and me are not one being. What we call the space between people. Look, we're in Boca. No floods in Boca. So why should I worry about the floods in Hong Kong? Why should I worry about the chaos in the Middle East? I'm here in the comfort of Boca. That's the illusion. I'm not them. Oh yeah, I feel bad somebody out there is suffering. But do you feel it as if it's you? No. That's the illusion of separateness. We all learn from Kabbalah 1 forward, there's only one being. There's only one soul. We are manifest in this physical world, one soul, one interconnectedness. We're manifest in the physical in 8 billion bodies. But there's only one soul. There's interconnectedness. So what happens to you happens to me. What you do affects me. What I do affects you. What we do affects everybody else. There's the other part. So we don't see that when the thief is stealing, even though he didn't steal from us, he's hurting us. We don't see that. That's the thief over there. And then when he gets caught, okay, he deserved it. No, we don't see. And what separates us, and this is a new way for me with the help of one of the students who brought it out. So why do we have separateness? Why is there that distance between us? How many of you still hold a little resentment, a little anger towards somebody, a little judgment on somebody? Still, could be 5, 10, 20 years. Still hold a little bit. Okay, not bad. I don't do anything overtly. I don't do anything actively, but I'm still hurt by what they did 20 years ago. So why is there a space between you and them? And I don't mean physically. Why is there a spiritual space? Repressed emotions. You're still holding resentment. Our repressed emotions keep the space between us and other people. Which means then, as we hold the consciousness that there's only one soul, then we're also separating ourselves to that degree from our next blessing. Creator gave us all the blessings. Our job is to activate them. So then to remove the space, and again, I'm not telling you have to hang out with them, you have to be around them. You don't even have to, let's call it, like them because of their negative behavior. But to our advantage, we want to connect to their soul. We want to remove the space between me and the light in their soul, because that's the space between me and my next blessing. So how many of you would like to have, maybe even this morning you woke up and said, oh, I could really use this blessing in my life. Whatever it is, a little more health, a little more clarity, a little more protection, a little more love, a little more money, a little more peace, whatever. Any of you woke up like that? Any of you been thinking I could use a little more blessing in my life? Okay, so what's blocking you from your blessing? Those repressed emotions. The repressed anger, guilt, shame, fear, ego, greed, insecurity, jealousy, etc. That's it. Tough lesson, I understand. But this is where we're learning here. You want to have more blessing? You and I have to release. We have to transform those suppressed emotions, negative emotions. We have to overcome, transform, not just try and let go. Right? If you put glue on your hand and you've got a fist, you say, oh, I got this glue in my hand, and you open your hand and let go. Does the glue fall away? No, it sticks. You have to scrub it off. You have to wipe it off. So there's no such thing as, oh, I'll just let go. Has to be transformation. So we have to transform our judgment to compassion and kindness, our resentment to forgiveness, our sense of lack into generosity, our ego into humility. That then will take off the spiritual mud. That will remove the space between the soul in me and the soul in you and the soul in them, which then also takes away the space between each of us and our pure, perfect self. And that pure, perfect self keeps pushing us to let go, to transform. How does it do that? By putting us in situations that messengers will remind us that we still have those suppressed emotions. So that means, like Noah, you have to feel your anger, jealousy, ego, greed, guilt, shame, whatever it is, and then transform it. Because most of us, with the help of the opponent, we're already almost perfect people. So I heard Michael Berg was telling us over the weekend, he was saying one of the lessons that we can benefit from is reminding ourselves, no matter how much we learn, no matter how much we're doing, to still realize how far we are from our perfection. Not in a bad way, not in a discouraging way, but in just like a truthful way. If 100% is available to us, if the Creator put 100% inside of us, and we're thinking we're at 80% of our potential, when in actuality we're only at 60%, will we ever be able to get to 100%? No. No, because if we think we're at 80 and we're really at 60 and we do 20 more, so the opponent says, see, you're at 100, but you're only at 80. So that 20% is going to keep showing up as challenging situations to point out, but you're only at 80. While we're thinking, no, we're already at 100 and it's just their fault we don't feel it. No, there's nobody to blame. We want to act differently. What we're learning here, and it's important to keep in mind, reawakening on a new level today. From Kabbalah 1 forward, we learn some fundamental ideas. Our job is to start keeping them in mind. Because we're here in the center, we're learning what are the universal laws that are the operating system of everything from science, medicine, physics, chemistry, mathematics, etc., to Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all the spiritual systems. There is one fundamental operating system within that. That's what we're learning here. Keep the fundamentals. Even we talked a little bit. One, the Creator already gave us perfection. Inside of us is the infinite power of God. Do we really believe it? Oh, to an extent, but not really completely. We have the two voices in our head. Keep that in mind. So we can be consciously distinguishing between the two. If we don't believe there's two voices in our head, then we're never going to distinguish between it. And sadly, we're mostly on the default system of the opponent. Give in to the jealousy, the ego, the fear, etc. And then cause and effect. What goes out of me comes back to me. Doesn't matter what they do, what they say. This is why we can read Noah. He made the effort for 300 years to warn people and build the ark. So he built his protective shield. The rest of the world was destroyed and he was protected. Why? Cause and effect. He didn't give in to, well, if they're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. After imagine 200 and let's say 95 years. He's been warning people, and even he doesn't see the rain. Why didn't he just say, that's it, 295 years, God, that's enough. So the lesson for us is perseverance. Perseverance, never give up. Remember, how much did God give us? Put 100% inside of us. Created us as one soul. So we have to persevere through the ups and downs, through the challenges. Yes, will we fail here and there? Will we fall to a reactivity? Will we listen to the opponent? Yeah, we will. The nice part is we know in the next minute we can turn around and fix it. There's nothing that cannot be repaired. Nothing. But this is where the uncomfortable, extending ourselves, extending the light of the Creator out of us comes from. That's the difficult part, because the opponent is still there saying, no, just take in the little picture, right? Look at this, if you push them out of your life, you'll be okay. And it's true, push them out of your life for 5 minutes, you feel good. The trouble is somebody else shows up. And you wonder why God is punishing you. This bad challenge, this bad thing, this challenging thing, these people, all that stuff. Hello, look at the world today. Let's be objective. What's different between the world today and the world of Noah?
Not that much.
Exactly, that's what we have to look at. Hello, look at all the other biblical stories. It's all the same thing. What's changed? Not much. Not much. There's still all the chaos. There's still all the things. Only now it looks like it's the 21st century stuff. Now it's high technology. Now there's internet. Now there's space travel. There's all these different things that does not let us see it's the same. The illusion of the five senses. But this is why my teachers, the Rav and Karen, always talked about it as the opponent is like the master illusionist, the master magician. What does a magician do? He distracts you, doesn't he? Make you look over here on this side, while meanwhile behind your back he's doing all this other bad stuff to you or hiding things. Oh, here's the trick. That's what the opponent's doing. He's making us focus. Oh, no, I'm okay now. Right? I've got all those people away from me. I'm okay. No, hello, 5,782 years Kabbalistically, same thing going on, just in different forms. And remember, this is even tougher. I'm just going to share it with you. I'd say at least 9 times out of 10, the things we point our fingers at are the things we did in a past life. Because there's a lot of things we could point our fingers at today that doesn't look like us in this lifetime. Maybe we point our fingers at different religions, different political things, different economics, different cultures, whatever, different colors, etc. I guarantee you, Kabbalistically, it means that somewhere in a past life, that's who we were. Oh, yeah, because we know in this lifetime, we know the idea. If we point at them, we're pointing back at ourselves, we get it. But let's go to a bigger picture. Because the world is now coming to we are in a precipitous point. We are deciding how fast we're going to get to the Garden of Eden, or heaven forbid not. We are that close. That's why there's such pressure on us. So we want to take these lessons. We want to start taking this wisdom. You want to get rid of time? You want time not to block you? So what do? Act now as if you see immediately the effect. Just don't look and say, oh, but I don't see it. No, but no, if you're more kind, if you're more compassionate, if you're more humble, if you're more generous, if you're more tolerant or forgiving, act as if, hold in your mind as if it's happening now that it's coming back to you. Remember also on the other side, pause when you're feeling like you want to be upset or angry or do something in a reactive way, pause. And imagine, no, exactly what you're thinking to do, it's going to come immediately back to you. Like the thief with his hand falling off. Act as if. Then you take out time. And of course, then by acting more like the light, it will come back to you in the right way, in the right moment, for our highest good. The part of space. Take out the suppressed emotions. Start acknowledging. I still have some fear, some jealousy, some anger. I think I shared with you. It was so crystal clear. Sukkot, right? Just a week ago, a little over a week ago, I had this vision. And it was painful as nobody's business. I saw every judgment in this lifetime that I judged my parents, I judged friends in school, whatever it was. Nothing major. Nothing major. I can honestly tell you, at this point, I don't hate anyone. I can still have some resentment of this, but I saw with clarity, every judgment I ever made in this lifetime was exactly a perfect reflection of me. Almost cried, because it was so painful to see. I couldn't point my finger at anybody else. Does it mean they weren't doing what they were doing? But like we said all morning, so what? They're in the spiritual mud. I don't want to be in their spiritual mud with them. I want to be clean from that mud. That was the mercy the universe was showing me. Yes, when I look at them, it's me. And if I could tell you even the sadder part or more hurtful part, I saw it clearly. I saw me. I saw my negativity. I saw my blockage. I saw where I was judging even myself. It was painful until I stopped and I realized, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the Creator. Thank you to my soul for pointing it out. Because from that day forward, have I thought to judge people? Yeah, I have to be honest. It's still part of my humanness. But in the moment I'm thinking it, at this point, pause. No, what is it in me? 34 years I've been teaching out of here, out of my intellect. Yeah, it's all a reflection, all a reflection. But has it been from my heart actually seeing it? No. No. So I've allowed myself still to judge people and hold a little judgment up until a couple weeks ago. Now I can't. I can't because it was so clear. What does the Zohar teach us? If you want to look it up, those of you who have a Zohar, Balotcha, verse 88. In the English. It says something very simple. If we're now talking about the flood, and I don't think any of us could deny that the world is being flooded, maybe not with water, but are we not being flooded with chaos? Chaos. All over the world. Every type of chaos. So we're in the flood. We are there. We want to be on Noah's Ark. So you look at this verse, Balotcha, verse 88, says something very simple. The Zohar is Noah's Ark. The Zohar is Noah's Ark. Well, if the Zohar is Noah's Ark, we better start jumping on it fast, right? Don't look around and say, well, it's not so bad. We're here in Florida. It's okay. Even people are running to Florida now because it's so good here, right? So when you read or you go outside, no car accidents, nobody getting sick, no trouble, no violence, no drug abuse, no, right? In this wonderful place of Florida, right? It's all just pure love. You understand? Yeah, we may have, thank goodness, a certain protection, but let's not fail to see the chaos that still exists. So what is the Zohar telling us? The Zohar is Noah's Ark. So just quickly think about it. Now that we're understanding that it was a physical ark, etc. So the Rav often said, how did a physical boat, the Titanic couldn't stand a little iceberg. You think a wooden boat could withstand a flood of the world? No. So it was empowered. The physical ark was empowered by the light of the Creator, which is what the Zohar is. That's it. So let's think now, if we're going back to that, because the Zohar has two aspects. We have, yes, as much as we can grasp, the Zohar is teaching us wisdom. But the most valuable part of the Zohar is simply the book of the Zohar is a beacon of light from the endless world. There's nothing else in this universe that is a beacon of light from the endless world. As we all know, light is the only thing that will take away darkness. Could scream at darkness all day, it's not going to go away. Can tell them how powerful you are, how much wisdom you've got. Darkness won't go away until you turn on the light. The Zohar is that light. So what's the purpose of the centers we often talk about? Spread the Zohar all over the world. Think about the time of Noah. What would have happened if in those 300 years, one person woke up and said, you know what? I think Noah's onto something. And that person touches somebody else and they say, oh, now they got 10 people. Yeah, I think Noah is onto something. I don't see it with my eyes, but I'm starting to get a feel because now I'm looking around in reality and I see there's a lot of people behaving with hatred and violence and all that terrible stuff. It may not have affected me yet, but I can see it out there. And if it keeps growing out there, what's eventually going to happen? It's going to come back here, heaven forbid. But if we do the opposite, we get 10 people. Think what would happen if Noah had had maybe 50,000, 100,000 people who joined him, warning the other people, behaving like the Creator. So the power we have, we want. The whole purpose of the center is to bring every human being on earth into the ark. That's it. It's simple. We started it 2001. We've been doing it since I started 34 years ago. The Kabbalists have been doing it forever. But the actual official, if you will, Zohar project, May 2001. We all know what happened in September 2001. The solution always before the problem. The Rav and Karen introduced the Zohar project to put, as we call it, a Zohar in every house. Put a Zohar in every house. Think, if the light is bright, we said today, when the light is bright enough that there's no more darkness, then you and I will see when we're about to be judgmental, it's me. We will see when we're about to act in a reactive way, what will come back to us. The thief will see his hand fall off when he tries to steal. He'll see that in his own eyes. The violent person will see what comes back to them through their acts of violence. And they'll begin to see that they're only acting from their own blockage, that they have inside them the infinite light of God, and that's all they have to let out. So be charitable, be kind, be forgiving. And then they will have all the blessings that they wanted through their negative behavior. That's the power. That's the power. So I want from each of us, if you don't have a Zohar, get a Zohar. If you already have a Zohar, give it to your family and friends. If they already have it, then help us spread it all over the world. Let's take a lesson from history, as all the Kabbalists have been telling us. And I will remind you, and this we will end with, and I know I can only paraphrase it, but it was very famous, and I've shared with you, my past life was the Holocaust, so it's very pertinent for me. There was a minister, I forget his name, whatever, but it was sort of the famous part of the talk he used to give around the world, I think, after the Holocaust. He said, when they came for the Jews, he wasn't Jewish, so he didn't do anything. When they came for the communists, he wasn't communist, he didn't do anything. When they came for this political person, he wasn't that, and he didn't do anything. He says, and then when they came for him, there was no one left to help. So our job, what the center's been teaching me for almost 35 years now, and teaching the world for about 50 years since the Rav and Karen took over from their teacher, is this message. The brighter the light, the faster the darkness goes away. And nobody can do it on their own. We all need help, we all need support. And the universe is showing us today. If you don't believe it, I give you free will. But I look at the world and I see we are literally in the flood. It's the exact same thing as the time of Noah, and the Ark is available. That's the paradox. The irony, we have the Ark. It's simply the books of the Zohar. We have the solution. We have a lot more people than when I started 35 years ago. Those of you around the world, we've got millions of people who've come through the center in 50 years. So there's a lot out there. But until there's no more chaos, there's more Zohar to go out there. So all I can do is encourage you. It's worked for me. I've seen my own miracles. If you want to write me, I can share with you some of those personal miracles that I've seen. We hear all the time from stories and students around the world, their miracles. It's time. Let's all be recalling our lives in the time of Noah, when we didn't listen. And let's start realizing, no, the faster we can bring more people on board, then the faster we can assure that we will all be protected. And not only that, but when the Zohar or the Ark is big enough, then there won't even be the need for the flood, because we'll have cleaned ourselves. God bless. So let's do as we do. Again, we can only do this with your support. I wish I could tell you that the center itself had enough resources that we could spread the Zohar, as we call it, a critical mass of Zohar around the world, but we're not there yet. It just takes all of us. And I want to remind you, as I've shared with some students personally one-on-one, I don't know about any of you, I don't know, maybe you do, but probably most of us don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to give. And it will take probably a couple $1 billion to finish the job, to spread enough Zohar to get rid of all the chaos. But the nice part is, like we said with Noah, if you and I do what we can, if we start pushing ourselves and giving and sharing a little more in our level, like will attract like. We'll start to bring, because we are one soul, we'll start to bring people along the way who maybe will wake up spiritually, and they'll be able to give $1 million, $5 million, $100 million, $1 billion. There are plenty of people in the world today who could give $1 billion and not even notice it. So imagine, for whatever it is, $2, $3, $4 billion, we could have peace on earth forever. So you and I, the more we'll do and the more we'll transform and the more light we put into the world, the faster we will wake up those souls that will be able to come and do that. So this is why we always put our extra effort into this meditation that we're about to do in your offering. Inject it with light. Okay, let's hold it together. Those of you who are online with us, I've put the link that you can share. And those of you here, just hold your offering in your hand. Consciousness is everything, and the energy we put in it, because money is only a vessel, it's a container. What it will do for the world and do for us in return is dependent on the energy that we put in it. So we put, first of all, our gratitude, appreciation, first and foremost to the Creator for giving us a soul full of light, for the center for teaching us and giving us that true heartfelt understanding that we are God incarnate in this world with the powers of the Creator to heal, to bless, to transform, to resurrect the Garden of Eden in this world. We can feel its presence when we open our heart and open our minds. Through this gift, through this offering, sharing the light of the Zohar and this wisdom of Kabbalah worldwide to a greater and greater extent. We take away the covers They've been hiding the truth that we are one soul, you are I, and I am me, I am you. What we all do affects each other. The truth that the light of the Creator is here abundantly. And as we transform and release through transformation our own suppressed negative emotions, blockages, we reveal more and more of our personal and collective Garden of Eden, heaven on earth. We send this gift out into the world to remove all the darkness, to reveal heaven on earth. And through working together, through holding that consciousness of oneness and unity, we speed up the process. We bring the exponential level of light into this world now. And we acknowledge, we sense and experience greater and greater peace, harmony, joy, love, and unity. Together we say, Amen. So thank you all, those of you following us out here in cyberspace. It's great to have you. Have an amazing week. Write, let me know some more of your stories and even your questions. If you have questions, please write those also. Have a marvelous week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.